start paying his parts people on when the body shop cars went home, you'd be shocked what that parts guy did to make sure those guys had the parts. As soon as he figured out that what parts they had to have to move that car from body to paint, he was running in circles trying to make sure they had that stuff. And it's amazing what it did to their production.
Well, even at
it's awesome the guy cared.
Even at Tom Peacock, they started using the Carbeat.
Yeah.
Using that, Carbeat's a new system that AXO has where it's kind of like a living, breathing ops board, I guess is the best way to describe it. Different places where the car is in process. But they got in with the parts side as well in terms of, hey, this is where our jobs, it gets flagged a certain color. These jobs are being held up because of parts. So therefore, when the GM comes over maybe and looks and wants to see why cars are being held up, they can look at the board and be like, oh, that's internal. So like literally internally cars are being held up because their parts team, because the parts guy at dealerships especially, they always neglect the paint side because they're like, they're not going anywhere, they're always going to be our customer.
Yeah.
So they don't really care about them, even though it's usually their best customer.
Yeah.
Or the one that
highest
makes the most
profit
money.
margin,
Yep.
buys the most,
Yeah.
still treats them like a redheaded stepchild, right? It's kind of a crazy thing if you've ever spent any time in a car dealership. It's just mind-boggling, actually, how they operate, right? So real quick, I do believe, I'm going to skip over page 106 because it talks about how often you order. If you are the shop that calls UIL every single day for something, then something is broken at your shop, okay? And I'm just using them for an example. I'd say this about every vendor. You should really have some either weekly or large monthly order. You should know history. We should be able to get within 90% of what you need, Yes, is there going to be some one-off stuff? Sure. But if all of a sudden you're having to call your paint distributor every single day, something is broken, right? Just FYI. So this is a really good thing to look at. Order, right? Someone smarter than me made this up. One person's responsible. Repeat a standard weekly stock order. And I'm not, Mitch and Yen may have a different process for y'all, but this is a pretty good, like 30,000 foot. Determine target stock levels by comparing on-hand levels to weekly orders or having analytics out of a machine that actually tells you stuff. Electronic ordering to record purchase and provide control and review the project cost for the order, right? So that's not a bad way to look at things. I kind of already talked about 5S, and you've seen pictures of what crap looks like that's messed up, right? If your body man cabinet starts to look like this, right, where it's 5S. Does everybody understand what 5S is? I don't want to pop over that, right? That's the Japanese sort, set and order, sweep and shine, standardize and sustain, right? So I can tell you, everybody 3S's. 3S is no problem. Sort, set and order, and sweep and shine. Those last two S's are a real bitch. The standardizing and sustain piece, right? So making sure that we have a standard that we follow and that we can sustain keeping our shop clean and well organized, our paint shop, our body shop, and all those things is where the trouble comes into play. But if you start to have a body man's cabinet that looks like this, it's super evident what, not that he looks like he's missing anything, but if something was missing, if there was no sanding disc here, it's pretty damn evident that, hey, we need to order some of this, right? Because we're out, right? Does it make sense? If your cabinets, if your cabinets look like this and they're organized, and just like I brought up the mixing bank, right? Could you imagine if we sent that shit to you with no magnets to cut up and put on there? Or are they already cut? I don't even know. But either way, if you didn't have those magnets and where those toners lived when they weren't in use, what a disaster that would be. So, but some shops I go in, their body text cabinet is literally like my 16-year-old's closet, right? Which is just shit thrown in it, right? I mean, it's just insane. So don't let them do that. This one, I don't think this class has it, but I've seen these cabinets. I'm sure they're more expensive than that, but I've seen them where they make them now where the cabinet doors are glass. So, which I'm thinking about doing in my daughter's closet, by the way, because when I tell her to clean the room, she just throws the shit in the closet, shuts the door, I can't see it anymore, so I move on. But if the door was glass, she wouldn't be able to do that anymore. I'd see the stuff, right? It's not a bad idea. So you can do that. I've seen shops do that at their shop level, where the glass cabinet, they have glass cabinet doors now. Now it can't be dirty behind there because it shows, right? but just make them, you know, with help with your distributor, we'll help you get organized. It's the you standardizing it and sustaining it piece that is on you, right? We can't do that for you, right? We can help you get to this point, but we can't be there to make it stay that way, right? That has to be on you, right? Anyway, y'all get that. I'm not going to spend any more time on this stuff unless, Mitch, you've got something to talk about with all this paint crap.
The only thing I can think of that I would mention, and I don't really care where shops get it from, is scanning cars is a great source for paint profitability and liability reasons and so many other reasons. Everybody should be scanning.
Yeah, so that's not in this class, but to Mitch's point, he is dead on. If you are not doing pre and post scans on cars, there's a couple things. A, to Mitch's point, you're letting money out your door. B, you could also be putting yourself at a huge liability risk, right? So to me, that all falls back to what does the OE say? You can, for free, go to OEM1stop.com and you can get every position statement from every single car maker out there that will tell you their position on scanning, right?
And they all require it.
Yeah, by the way, they all require it, right? So, you know, we could debate, right, whether some of what they're putting on paper is overkill or not or whatever, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. The engineers say, this is what you got to do, and until they tell you something different, what that insurance company tells you literally means nothing, right? They are not going to go help you if you get sued. They're not going to help you if someone's safety system does not work after you fix their car. Matter of fact, they're going to do quite the opposite. They're going to say, you're the expert. Why did you screw this up? You see what I'm saying? That's what they're going to do to you. So, look, you know, I've got some shops out there that will argue that, hey, man, some of this pre-scanning stuff is a little insane, right? But I'm with you. I'm not on this team. I'm just telling you. One thing people who tell me that, the only thing I say to them is this: is for God's sake, okay, I'm not going to argue with you about this pre. You've obviously drank the Kool-Aid from the insurance industry, and that's cool. But don't let the car get out of there without doing the post. Does that make sense? Because at least that way you're saving your liability. You know what I mean? So, personally, I would do exactly what the OE says. That's the way to go. You know. You got anything on hazardous waste disposal? This thing's gonna. There's some math and crap in here. It's gonna go into paint waste and the cost of disposal and all that kind of stuff, and it kind of breaks it down. I don't know how you feel about it or if you see it anymore. I will tell you, when I ran the Rusty Wallace Honda in Dallas, I actually had a, what do they call that damn machine?
Recycler?
Yeah, I had my own recycler.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's worth the money.
They're usually, you have to go through a lot. They're usually pretty expensive.
Yeah,
like if you're at that point, it might, you know, you're either going through a ton of thinner and you're high production, but it seems like it rarely is worth it nowadays.
So that's what these last few slides are.
Yeah.
I guess you could, if you're a big enough shop, I mean, we used to. We made our own wash thinner that came out of that thing, and my guy did use it to clean his guns and stuff. Though as the machine got older, that thinner got yuckier.
The thinner starts to burn.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets, you can only use it a few times before you do still have to dispose of it.
Right.
But
so then the only other thing, and I don't know that it's in this class that I would say on the disposing of this stuff, is just make for damn sure that you follow the EPA standards. If you're just going to dispose of it, that you're using a reputable company that is disposing the stuff properly. Just so you know, and again, I don't know that it's in this class, I have friends that either own or have managed shops that have hired a company to dispose of their hazardous waste, and they didn't do it properly, and guess who was on the hook? It wasn't the company that disposed the waste. It's your waste from cradle to grave. So if you think, just FYI, if you think because you hired a company to come pick up your stuff and then they went and disposed of it improperly, yes, they will get in trouble, but you will too. You see what I mean? So that's how that works, just so you know. It's your stuff. And you made the decision to hire Johnny's Waste Disposal. That's how the state of Texas looks at it. I'm just telling you. I've been there from experience. I can tell you that's how it goes. So just make sure you're doing that right. You know, because if not, you could end up with in a really bad
And
deal.
I can't speak for anyone in the room, but I know Houston does regularly go around and ask to see your disposal receipts. And they kind of, and I've had shops ask us for what they bought from us so they can almost kind of match them up to make sure, you know, it makes sense. Because if all of a sudden your disposal receipts are for one drum and you're a huge shop and you're buying, you know, way more than your waste should be a lot higher than that, they might give you a hard time. So just be aware.
Yeah, see this, and I don't even know if that's right. Of course, you know, you've got to put numbers to it, but this slide's saying that a recycler, with this one, you get back to break even after almost a year, right?
Yeah.
So it may or may not be worth your time and energy, right?
It's better. There's companies too, instead of, you can actually lease the machine too.
Yeah,
which
and actually
is a
that's what
better
I did, is
option.
I leased the machine.
Yeah.
The only other thing I would say to this recycler deal thing that it did do for me is it kept me compliant.
Yeah.
So it changed it, and it's been a long time since I managed this shop, but it changed me from being a, what's the designation? There's like a mass producer of hazardous waste to a, you know, a minor one. There's an actual designation.
The 6.
There's a, you know what I'm talking about, right? But there's a designation to it within the EPA on how much hazardous waste you produce. And by me throwing that into the shop back in the day, it flipped me under the line, which also kept me off their radar. There was, it's kind of hard to dollarize staying off the radar, right?
So they're less strict about it. Like Austin's way worse. Like Travis County, like they're psycho about all that.
Well, Austin is ate up. It's our little piece of California, right here in the great state of Texas. Yeah. They are killing. So I'm not going to beat up the thinner stuff anymore. I don't think I have to convince people that that's what your mixing area should look like, right? Everybody's with me on this. By the way, these little baker's racks, as I call them, you can buy those things at Home Depot all day long for like $80 on rollers, and you can use them to organize the hell out of yourself at your store. You know, I have people use those for parts carts. They work really well, and unless you start hanging sheet metal off of them, they won't handle that, right? Any questions on that cost containment, garbage? They spend a lot of time on the recycling piece. The big takeaways there is to have a process for ordering, staying on top of said process, right? And quite honestly, doing some type of paint material like that impact report that will come back and show us where I'm trending. Am I kicking ass? Am I going the wrong direction? The numbers will help you know where to focus your energy, right? That's how I feel about it. So there's another, I don't know, is that on your, I think that's a regurgitation of that same slide. Let me make sure. I don't even have that. That's the same slide that you already have earlier. Yeah. So this is just on my, but this is the same one I told you to, and I probably put this back up here again to remind me to tell you that these calculations are worth looking at. So if you've dog-eared that back earlier in the page, that's all I really wanted to tell you there. It's very nice little reference to go back and look at the formulas to get to those numbers. All I'm going to tell you about a paint material profit program, and I'm going to go off the reservation and not even worry about what's up there. If you will, especially my business owners, but really everybody, if you look at page 142, it'll be 142 is a really good synopsis or summary of things that you need to keep in your mind. If you're thinking about putting an incentive program together, it gives you a guideline, right? And then the next couple pages, well, one of them is just the redo tracker, kinda. But the next couple pages are some different types of incentives that people have put together over the time, right? It's on yours too. So just a monthly paint technician incentive recap, and it shows you how to get to those numbers. And I can get you these files if you're interested. But the main thing, quite honestly, if you're even thinking about doing this kind of stuff, is this, and the thing that really, where's the one that tells you how much to share? Is that for marginalized 4% rate? I'm looking at your book upside down. I have my book right here. Okay, no, I'm sorry, flip back over. So you need both of these. So on page 141, there's a basis of the bonus calculation, okay? So what it's basically just telling you there, since there's so many ways to incentivize a tech, right? I have people do it. I was looking at those percent to sale numbers earlier as sales as a percent. So paint material is 10% as a percent to sale. And paint material cost is 6%, between 5 to 6% is a percent to sale. So you could, and it's not in the book, but I have shops that do this all the time. If you run that number all the time, right, and let's just say 5% is our goal, if you're going to spiff or bonus your people when we hit that 5% or below number or that 6% or below number,